Welcome to this presentation on post-completion optional practical training for F1 students, otherwise known as OPT. I hope this video will provide you with the information you need to further your academic and professional development in the United States. So let's get started by going over exactly what post-completion OPT is. OPT is an extension of your F1 immigration status that allows you to work in the United States for up to 12 months after you graduate. You will remain in F1 status for the entire duration of your 12 months of OPT. During those 12 months of OPT, every position you take must be directly related to the major field of study that is listed on your Form I-20. OPT is designed to allow you to gain practical experience related to your degree. To maintain F1 status during the OPT period, you must be engaged in paid or unpaid work that is directly related to the major field of study listed on your Form I-20. Pro bono opportunities, internships, and paid employment may be considered employment for OPT purposes. Students must work for at least 20 hours per week to avoid accruing days of unemployment under OPT authorization. There are a few requirements that you must meet to be eligible for post-completion OPT. First, you must have been studying full-time for at least one academic year immediately preceding your OPT application. You must also be in good academic standing at the time of applying. This means that you need a GPA above a 2.0, and you must not be facing any disciplinary charges. You do not need a job offer in hand in order to apply for OPT. Now that you know what post-completion OPT is and the eligibility requirements, we'll discuss when you should apply for post-completion OPT and some important information to keep in mind. Your point of reference is the program completion date listed on the first page of your Form I-20. Please pause this video and check your Form I-20 for your specific program end date. You can apply for post-completion OPT as early as 90 days before your I-20 program completion date. You can also submit your OPT application up to 60 days after your program completion date. This means that the application must reach USCIS and be receipted by day 60 of your grace period. Regardless of when you apply, you must request an OPT start date to begin within the 60 days of the program completion date listed on your Form I-20. You can apply for the entire 12 months of post-completion OPT without a job offer. If there is any chance that you might work in the United States after graduation, or if you wish to take a bar exam, then you should apply for OPT. You can continue job searching while your OPT application is pending. OPT is both a benefit and an extension of your F1 status. Once you submit your post-completion OPT application to USCIS, you remain in F1 status, including any gap between your program completion date and your OPT start date. If you are graduating in May, I recommend that you start the OPT application process by late February. You must be physically present in the United States to request OPT. Due to the long processing times at USCIS, you'll thank yourself for applying early. F1 students are generally eligible for 12 months of OPT. The post-completion OPT application process requires that students request specific OPT start and end dates. Let's review the factors you'll need to consider to determine these dates. So how much OPT do you have? Each F1 student has a total of 12 months of OPT at each new and higher degree level. For example, if you completed your undergraduate degree in the United States, then used 12 months of OPT, and then started a JD program at Georgetown, then you are eligible for a new 12 months of OPT after you complete your JD program. If you previously used OPT as part of a post-undergraduate degree in the United States, please consult with your advisor to see if you would still be eligible to apply for OPT after your current program. One factor that could affect your OPT end date is the use of pre-completion OPT. This means that if you have already benefited from pre-completion OPT, those months must be deducted from your total 12-month bank. If you have used pre-completion OPT, your advisor will be able to help you calculate how much time you have used, how much post-completion OPT you have left, and how that will affect your post-completion OPT start and end dates. If you used pre-completion OPT but only worked part-time, then the time you used is deducted at 50%. If you have used CPT or work authorization with an international organization during your time at Georgetown, these work authorizations do not subtract from your 12 months of post-completion OPT. For many students, the OPT application process can be stressful. There are many uncertainties. Maybe you don't have a job offer in hand, and without a job offer, how can you pick an accurate start date for your work authorization? Don't worry, you are in control of this application. You get to decide when you want to submit the application, and you also get to decide when you want your employment authorization to begin. This graphic outlines the 60-day period in which your OPT authorization must begin. Day 1 is the day following your Form I-20 program completion date. Day 60 following the Form I-20 program completion date is the last possible OPT start date. You may choose any start date within this 60-day time frame. A variety of considerations will influence your choice of OPT start date, but it's important to remember that your requested start date cannot be changed after your application is submitted to USCIS. Are you planning to take a bar exam? Most students who are planning to take a bar exam choose the latest possible OPT start date as they plan to prepare for the bar exam rather than work immediately following graduation. Selecting the latest possible start date will minimize the number of unemployment days you accrue before you sit for the bar exam. Or are you foregoing the bar exam and want to begin work immediately after graduation? If so, you may wish to choose an earlier OPT start date. Do you have an employment offer, or are you still looking for a job? If you are uncertain how long it will take to find a job and worry about accruing too many days of unemployment, then you might want to request a later start date. Just remember that if you choose a later start date and then you find an employer who wants you to begin working immediately, you will not be able to change your requested OPT start date. Again, please remember that once you submit your OPT requested dates to USCIS, they cannot be changed. In this section, we'll look at all of the materials that you need to assemble in order to submit your post-completion OPT application to USCIS. First, you must attend an OPT workshop in person or watch this video to completion. Then you will need to submit the online OPT request form and quiz. Please wait until after you have viewed the entire video before submitting this form and quiz. The form and quiz are located on our post-completion OPT website. As part of this form, you will need to pick the start and end dates for your OPT request. Next, you will need to email your current I-94 record and your unofficial transcript to your advisor at lawcentervisa@georgetown.edu. You can access your I-94 record online. The I-94 record is used to show that you are currently in the U.S. in F1 status. Only students currently in the U.S. in F1 status are eligible to apply for OPT. Your unofficial transcript can be accessed through MyAccess. Your unofficial transcript is used to ensure that your current GPA is above a 2.0. Within 3 to 5 business days of receiving the request form and quiz, I-94 record, and unofficial transcript, we will issue a new Form I-20 which contains the OPT recommendation on page 2. Once you receive your new Form I-20, carefully review the OPT dates listed on page 2 under Employment Authorizations. Inform your advisor right away if you need to change the dates listed on the I-20. These dates can only be changed before you submit your application to USCIS. You must sign and date the I-20 on page 1 and then send your complete application online or by mail to the United States Citizenship and Immigration Service, also known as USCIS. If you travel abroad, this I-20 is the I-20 you will need to re-enter the United States. We'll now review the documentation that you need to include in your application. The filing fee as of February 2024 is $410. This fee will increase on April 1st, 2024. Please check the USCIS filing fee website for the most up-to-date fee information. Pay the filing fee using a personal check, money order, cashier's check, credit card, or debit card. Your OPT application will be rejected if your bank account has insufficient funds when USCIS receives your application. Applications can also be rejected if your credit card is declined or if there is an error on the form. If you pay with a credit or debit card, then the card must be issued by a U.S. financial institution. You must upload passport-size photos taken within the past 30 days. Requirements for photos are strict and examples are linked on our website. Your photos must be different from the photos you used for your F1 visa application. If you are submitting your application by mail, please complete the Form G1145, which allows USCIS to communicate with you via email or text regarding the status of your application. If you apply online, then you do not need to submit this form. USCIS will ask for your contact information when you create your online account. The Form I-765 is available on the USCIS website. Do not download the I-765 from any other website, as it may be out of date. When you are ready to fill out the Form I-765, download the sample template and further instructions as guidance to assist you if you have questions. The I-765 has multiple pages, and you must include every page, even if the questions do not apply to your situation. Please carefully read the I-765 instructions available on the USCIS website, as they contain important information you need to keep in mind when filling out this form. If you are applying online, then you do not need to download and complete this form. The I-765 sections will automatically populate in your USCIS online account after you select the appropriate application category. You must sign and date at the bottom of your new Form I-20. If you are applying by mail, do not send the original Form I-20, as that must remain in your possession. You should send a copy of the I-20. You should also include copies of all previous I-20s that included work authorizations. This includes I-20s that were issued from previous U.S. institutions. If you are missing any previous I-20s that included work authorizations, you should include a letter explaining the work authorizations that you were issued. A sample letter can be found on our website. You must also include copies of any previously issued EAD cards, if any. EAD cards are the work authorization documents that are issued by USCIS. You must also include a copy of your passport biographic page. This must be valid and unexpired at the time of application. Please also include your most recent I-94 record, which you can print out online. You only need to include the I-94 information page that shows your non-immigrant status. You do not need to include the travel history page. You must also upload a copy of your F1 visa. Submit your application to USCIS right away. USCIS must receive your application within 30 days of the issue date listed on page 1 of your new Form I-20. We can reissue your I-20 if you are not able to submit your application packet right away. Don't risk a denial. Processing your application will take USCIS up to 3 months. It's a long process. Premium processing is an option, but you should consult with your advisor before you decide to pay the premium processing fee. Here are some important reminders for when you are submitting your application for OPT. I highly recommend that you make a copy of your application before submitting, as this will make it easier for you to respond to any questions about your application. If you submit a paper application, then you should pay for a tracked shipping method. Once you request your new Form I-20, you will need to make sure your application is received by USCIS within 30 days of the I-20 issue date. I highly recommend signing up for USPS Informed Delivery in order to get advance notification of when mail from USCIS should be arriving. If you apply online, then you will immediately receive a receipt notice after submitting the application. When you get the receipt notice, immediately check the spelling of your name and your date of birth. If you find any mistakes on the receipt notice, call the National Customer Service number listed on the receipt notice. Please contact your advisor if your application is returned or if you receive a request for evidence. Your advisor remains ready to assist you throughout the entire OPT period. Here are some important things to keep in mind while your OPT application is pending. Do not begin working until your EAD card start date. USCIS may authorize a start date that is different from the one you requested if your application is processed after your requested start date. You must have your EAD card in order to know the official start date. I do not recommend changing your living address while your application is processing. If you must change addresses, then you must notify USCIS immediately. Please be aware that the post office will not forward government mail to another address. After your I-20 program end date, I do not recommend traveling outside of the United States until you have the EAD card in hand. Following your I-20 program end date, the EAD card will serve as justification for your eligibility to re-enter the United States under your F1 visa. You will not be able to renew your driver's license until you have the EAD card in hand. After your OPT application is approved, USCIS will mail you an EAD card. This is your work authorization document. Carefully review the information on the card for accuracy. Please email a copy of the card to your advisor. You have the option of applying for a Social Security number on the OPT application if you do not already have one. If you have a Social Security number already, please do not apply for another one. You will keep the same Social Security number for life. If you apply for the Social Security number on the OPT application, then the Social Security Administration should send your Social Security number card shortly after you receive your EAD card from USCIS. If you do not apply for the Social Security number on the OPT application, then you must wait until your approved OPT start date before you can apply for the Social Security number. Please note that you are allowed to start working before you are issued a Social Security number. Here are some things to keep in mind during your OPT period. If you plan on traveling during the OPT period, you must have valid documentation to re-enter the United States. You will need to show the following documents at the port of entry: a passport that is valid and unexpired 6 months into the future, a valid F1 visa and valid Form I-20 with a travel signature. Don't forget that the travel signature during OPT is only valid for 6 months. If you need an updated signature, please email your advisor. You need to show your EAD card and a job offer letter from your current employer if you have employment. I also recommend having proof of funding if your job is unpaid. Remember, travel is discouraged until you have your EAD card in hand. Although you will no longer be pursuing a degree program during post-completion OPT, your F1 status is still sponsored by Georgetown, and you will still need to fulfill certain obligations to maintain your valid F1 status. The Department of Homeland Security's Student and Exchange Visitor Program will send a link inviting you to create an SEVP portal account once the OPT is approved and the start date on the EAD is reached. The email will be sent to your Georgetown email address. Please always check your spam, junk, or trash folders to see if this email gets redirected. All communication from our office and SEVP will go to your Georgetown email address during your OPT period, so make sure you are still actively using this email account. Follow the instructions in that email immediately upon receipt and create your SEVP portal account. This link expires in 30 days from the time it was sent, and it can only be clicked once to register your portal account. If the link is already expired, email your advisor to reset it. For any additional help with this process, please view the Study in the States website. Within 10 days, you must report any change in your address directly to your SEVP portal account. You must also report any employment changes throughout your entire OPT period. This includes each new employer's name and address. Reporting periods of employment are essential, as your F1 record may be automatically terminated after 90 days if nothing has been reported in your account. After you update employer information, you can request a new Form I-20 from your advisor. Before you start a new academic degree program, or change your visa status, or if you are thinking about taking an additional class under OPT, please speak with your advisor to determine any immigration implications. Even if you don't discuss these decisions beforehand, you must report if you have been admitted to a new academic program or if there is any change in your immigration status. Additionally, you must report if you leave the United States permanently and choose not to work for the remainder of your OPT period. It is important that you report your departure date to your advisor, as departure from the country does not automatically stop the 90-day unemployment clock and accrual. To maintain legal status under OPT, remember that you can only work in positions that are directly related to your degree program. You are entitled to a maximum of 90 days of unemployment throughout the entire OPT period. You must have a position that meets the OPT reporting requirements by the 90th day of unemployment in order for your OPT work authorization to remain valid. Please remember that your OPT work authorization is no longer valid once you exceed the 90 days of unemployment. Employment for the purposes of OPT is working in paid or legitimate unpaid opportunities that are directly related to your degree program for at least 20 hours per week. At the end of the OPT period, if you have not exceeded the 90 days of unemployment, you are allowed a 60-day grace period before departure from the United States. Paid and unpaid work is not permitted during the grace period, as the OPT authorization has ended. The grace period does allow you to pack up your belongings and prepare for departure, visit friends in the United States, explore the country, or transfer to another degree program. If you depart the United States, even to go to Canada or Mexico, before the end of the grace period, you will not be able to re-enter the country in F1 status. Please remember that tax filing is a legal obligation in the United States. You should receive an email from our office in February with additional information and a link to our tax website. Thank you for viewing this video. If you have any additional questions about OPT, please email your advisor.